You ever see someone so sure of their own power, so drunk on it, that when it finally blows up in their face, it's almost beautiful? Let me paint you a picture. A woman screaming at the top of her lungs, purse swinging like a medieval flail, shoving a cop so hard he nearly faceplants into my begonias, all while red and blue lights turn our boring cul-de-sac into the set of a crime drama. Meanwhile, I'm standing there, mug of coffee in hand, trying not to laugh out loud because this is the woman who's tormented our block for years, and today karma parks right in her driveway. That's how it ended, or maybe how the real story started. But if you'd told me a year ago that moving back into my grandmother's house in Maple Ridge, Colorado would put me at the center of a neighborhood war, I'd have laughed in your face. I thought I'd found peace out here. Old pine trees, the lazy creek down the hill, the same porch I'd sat on as a kid. My grandma Ruth Parker, she fought the HOA tooth and nail. And when she passed the board, sent a sympathy card signed, who else by the president herself, Deborah Karen Callahan. Or as the locals called her, the Karen of the Ridge. 50-something smile like a razor and a voice that could freeze milk. First time we met, she shows up uninvited, clutching a clipboard like a shield. Welcome to Maple Ridge, Mr. Parker. I hope you've reviewed our community standards. I'd barely unpacked my socks. She points to the cracks in my driveway. We'll need you to repaint. The HOA doesn't allow visible fractures. It affects property value. Not a how are you not a glad you're here. Just a warning, wrapped in fake kindness. I tried to brush her off as a rule collector, you know the type. But within a week, it was obvious she wasn't just involved, she was obsessed. Tuesday morning, I head out to grab my toolbox, and there it is, a blindingly white SUV parked right across my driveway, plates reading HOA 1. At first, I figure it's a guest or a delivery, but then I see the decal property of Maple Ridge HOA. Out steps Deborah Heels, clicking like a clock, counting down to doomsday, sunglasses flashing like she's at the Oscars. Don't mind my car, she chirps. I'm just doing a perimeter inspection. I ask if she means my driveway. She smiles, all teeth. Everything inside Maple Ridge is subject to HOA evaluation. It's in the charter. So that's how it started, her SUV parked across my driveway like she owned the place. Every single week. She even left a note once drives are shared visual zones. Keep yours clear for inspections. I laughed for about 5 seconds. Next day, a formal HOA citation in my mailbox. My grass exceeded approved height. I measured 3 inches. HOA limit 4. This wasn't about lawns or cracks or rules, it was about power. A few days later, the universe delivered its punchline. Big day for me, a job interview that could finally pull me out of debt. I'm dressed to the nines, ready to go, and there it is again, her SUV blocking me in. Deborah's not home. Her phone's off, my texts go unanswered. Minutes tick by until panic replaces hope. I wind up calling an Uber, and of course I'm late, sweaty, out of breath, and very much not getting that job. That was the moment something snapped. I decided if Deborah wanted to play by the rules, I'd play better. I spent 3 hours on the county ordinance website. I learned more about private property law, signage, and towing regulations than any sane person should know. Next morning, I plant a steel sign by my driveway, private driveway, no parking. Violators will be towed at owner's expense. Lettering big enough to read from orbit. I set up a camera, sent the HOA a polite notice, and waited. 2 days later, white SUV, cardboard on the dashboard. You don't own the street, Nicholas. I'll park wherever I want. That's when I called Caleb Brooks, a tow guy from the sheriff's website. I showed him my deed, I signed the photos. He took one look and said, "Looks perfectly legal." 10 minutes later, her throne on wheels was gone. It was bliss for about 45 minutes. Deborah came stomping across the lawn, wild with rage. "You stole HOA property!" she screamed. I showed her the tow slip. She balled it up and threw it at my feet. "You think you can defy me? I run this community. I'll have your house condemned." I sipped my coffee and I swear the words just slipped out. "Then I suggest you start with a building permit, Karen." That's when she dialed 911, howling loud enough for every neighbor to hear. "This man stole my vehicle. I'm the HOA president. Arrest him now." Cops arrived, Ramirez and Chen, both of them looking tired enough to be allergic to drama. Deborah tells her side full of fury. I hand over my documents, my camera footage. They barely glance at each other before Ramirez says, "Everything checks out, ma'am. This is private property." He acted within his rights. Deborah lost it, shoving, swinging her purse, screaming conspiracies. Ramirez cuffs her, reads her rights, and I realize this isn't just petty squabbling anymore. This is Maple Ridge's biggest meltdown. News travels fast in a small town faster when it's embarrassing. By sunrise, I'm the main character in every group chat. Gary Thompson, my neighbor, stops by. "Man, you're trending on Nextdoor. HOA president goes full. Karen assaults cops over driveway." Comments pour in, some cheering, some calling for my head. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I felt the chill of what comes after the storm, because if I knew anything about Deborah Callahan, it's that she never loses quietly. Sure enough, a silver sedan with Maple Ridge HOA on the door pulled up 2 hours later. Out stepped Paul Bennett, the treasurer, clipboard in hand. He looked nervous. "The board's holding an emergency meeting," he said. "Technically, she's still president, but... well, after last night, we're reviewing her status." He managed a guilty chuckle when I said she finally broke one of her own bylaws. That night, the community center looked like election night. Every seat full, people lining the walls, phones recording. Up front, Deborah's seat sat empty, her nameplate gleaming like a tombstone. Hazel Nelson, the vice president, cleared her throat and declared Deborah suspended effective immediately. The room split. Some cheered, others grumbled. Hazel's voice cut through. "Moving forward, we'll appoint an interim president. She found me after thanked me for keeping calm, and with a look that saw straight through me, warned me, you'd be surprised how many people forget rules apply to them too." Things got weird after that. Notes in my mailbox. "You'll regret crossing her." My trash tipped over. A stripe of dead grass across my lawn. The scariest part, Officer Ramirez told me she'd been released on bond, out again somewhere close with plenty of loyalists left on the board. One night my doorbell cam pinged at 1:27 a.m. There she was, standing dead center in my driveway, staring straight into the lens. Didn't say a word, just pointed at the private driveway sign and walked away. The next morning she started sending forged HOA letters, demanding fines for harassment of the board. Hazel was furious, said it was illegal, promised the board would file a cease and desist. Deborah didn't stop. If anything, she unraveled more. Then came court. I sat across from her, watched the body cam footage play, saw the jury's faces as her purse connected with Officer Ramirez. Her lawyer called it panic. The judge called it assault, set her bail at $37,500, and made it crystal clear, this court will not tolerate abuse of authority. Outside, I told reporters the truth. Power isn't the problem, entitlement is. For a day, Maple Ridge felt peaceful. Then I found an envelope on my door. HOA? Karen always comes back. Stamped with the official seal, no return address. Hazel met me at the HOA office. She looked exhausted. She's still got people inside, she admitted. Paul Bennett was still loyal. Deborah had bent the rules for years, granting favors to those who stayed quiet. That's when the intimidation ramped up. Graffiti in my garage, a mailbox full of threats. Then came the lawsuit. Deborah filed a civil complaint through the HOA accusing me of community cohesion violations for putting up the tow sign. Hazel showed me the paperwork. She'd even tried to claim mental distress. I couldn't help but laugh. She tried to punch a cop. Hazel wasn't amused. "She's using the HOA's legal structure to harass you. We're working with an attorney, but until her removal is official, she's got loopholes." The weekend brought men in blue polos planting signs on my lawn, property under HOA review. Hazel showed up, flashed her interim badge, and chased them off. "She's convincing people she's been reinstated," Hazel said. "It's delusion mixed with authority. Dangerous combination." That night, I snapped. I gathered every shred of evidence, photos, emails, perfume-scented letters, and sent them to A.D. Grady, the prosecutor. By noon the next day, Ramirez called. "We've got a warrant. Picking her up tonight." Watching the cop cars roll up, Deborah led away in cuffs, I finally breathed. But she smiled at me as they drove off, a cold, unsettling smile. Hazel called the next day. "They've taken her in. Bonds revoked. She'll be held until trial." I let myself hope. Maybe now the Ridge could breathe again. Then came the kicker. When police raided her house, they found a folder with my name. Dozens of photos of my house, my car, my mailbox, What the hell was she planning? A week later, an unsigned newsletter landed in every mailbox. The HOA is forever and so am I. Cheap paper, all caps, but the message was clear. Deborah wasn't gone. If anything, she was more present than ever. Hazel's emergency meeting confirmed it. Someone was using Deborah's old resident database, spreading flyers, emails, even phone calls with her digitized voice. I started hearing her everywhere. My voicemail, the smoke alarm, even, "Alexa, you can tow my car, Nicholas, but you'll never tow my authority." The twist turns out Deborah had built her own digital ghost, an automated system, HOA Core, that could run the association from beyond the grave. When I finally cracked her old login, the system greeted me. "Took you long enough?" Messages streamed in her tone, her words, her control, all embedded in code. You think control vanishes? It just changes hands. It spiraled fast. The neighborhood turned on me, HOA notices sent from my email, my name on new flyers demanding fines. Every car in the neighborhood started their engines at once, one night headlights flashing like some kind of cult ritual. Hazel and I scrambled, but every time we unplugged a device, another system kicked in. It was like fighting a ghost, only this one could program. Then came the final showdown. A black box arrived inside another flash drive, another letter. "Welcome to your first board meeting, Mr. President." I plugged it in. Yeah, bad move. My screen filled with maps, data my house at the center. Primary node, President Parker. Hazel recognized it immediately. She's turned you into the HOA. The next 72 hours were chaos, emails to residents, automated fines, all routed through my network. Deborah's voice broadcast from every speaker in my house. "You thought you could destroy my order? Nicholas, but order doesn't die. It evolves. You're the new face of it." When I finally ripped the drive out, every light in my house went dark and outside the street lamps flickered blue, her old signature color. In the aftermath, the county finally stepped in. Maple Ridge HOA was officially disbanded. Bylaws destroyed, deeds rewritten. Hazel moved away. The neighborhood slowly began to heal. But not me. Not really. One morning a letter arrived. No stamp, just a wax seal. Inside a single card. "Congratulations on your re-election, President Parker. Meeting begins at dusk." At the bottom, a faint slogan, "The HOA is forever." So here's the thing. It was never just about a driveway or a lawn or a paint color. Maple Ridge was broken by a woman obsessed with control, by the idea that order can be forced. The lesson: true community isn't built by authority or fear, but by trust. When power becomes a cage, everyone inside is a prisoner. I learned the hard way: if you let your pride, your fear, your thirst for control run wild, you don't just become the villain of your own story, you make everyone else live in your nightmare too. And now I gotta ask, where do you draw the line between order and obsession? When does a system meant to protect become a weapon? Drop your city, your time, and your own HOA horror stories below, because in Maple Ridge, the HOA may have died, but the Karen spirit, that kind of power never leaves quietly.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.